The Planning and Architecture Review Commission of the City of Glendale is now in session. Everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which we have in our packets, and actually we had in our packets, but now we have, I guess they were updated minutes that were left here for us at our spots at the table. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes with the corrections?
Moved.
Moved by Commissioner Story. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Nelson. Any discussion? All right. All those in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
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 Opposed, no. The minutes are approved. We have a number of items of old business carried over from past meetings. One person is asked to just step up and make a statement and then is going to leave. So I'm actually going to do a little bit of out of order here. Item 3D, I'm going to take first. Oh, I'm sorry, we did skip roll call. I'll ask the city planner if you could please take the roll. I know we have a quorum, so.
Chairman Mayor Kennedy,
Here.
Commissioner Seligman,
Here.
Shante Nelson,
Here.
John Story.
Here.
Mr. Mayor, everyone else is excused.
I did know that. All right.
We
so
do have a quorum.
Thank you. So we'll take item 3D out of order. I'll just invite Mr. Fuchs up. He was going to make a quick statement and then we're going to move on with the other items. So.
Thank you. At your last meeting, we had raised certain issues, such issues as John Valinsky and Direct Outdoor have raised, were discussed with the mayor and city staff. So pending a conceptual resolution being presented to the Common Council, which would be the approving authority, we are actually requesting that item 3.
Oh, you need to speak microphone. The last part of it didn't get picked up.
We are requesting that item 3D be tabled. It would leave it pending, but if the Sprecher and the heritage signs are built, or if the settlement is approved, there would be no need that we ever even bring that application back to you. So tabling it. Couldn't do this when I worked for you. I can't do it now. Tabling this would be the logical thing to do.
Okay, thank you very much. Can we get a motion to table item 3D? I guess we're going to lay it over indefinitely or postpone it indefinitely. Can I get a motion to that effect, please?
So moved.
Okay, moved by Commissioner Nelson. Is there a second?
Seconded.
Second by Commissioner Story. All those in favor of postponing indefinitely item 3D, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
All right, the next item up tonight is for the Chick-fil-A at 5201 North Port Washington Road. They had come before us before with a proposal for some screening and fencing, and they're now back, I guess, with a modification to what they had proposed before. So, Mr. Fellows. Yeah, make sure your microphone's on as well, please.
See here, there we go. Now we're on. So Chick-fil-A had come a couple months before, actually in June, to the commission and had requested to build a screen wall along Port Washington Road. And they had originally submitted one application, then they came back and what you saw was sort of an actual sort of more like a screen. This is on your screen. Wow, lots of words about screen. Sorry about that. So on your screen is the windscreen from the June meeting. They took July and part of August to come up with a revised drawing. This particular screen is what's before you today. You can see, if you recall, just because it was about 2 months ago, one of the reasons why they changed their application mid-application was originally they were going to build a footing and then a masonry wall. So it would actually be like a structural wall. Their engineer because of the way the fill is on that site, they felt that that was going to be very difficult to put actually a foundation in. So they wanted a much lighter type wall. That's why they proposed what you had, but it still was really just sort of literally screening. In this case, they've tried to provide an option that is lightweight, but kind of also meets that original intent of their first application. So it's essentially, instead of brick, it actually is a metal panel system. So I think if I go to this three-dimensional drawing here on our screen, it might actually help you understand it a little better. It certainly, once they gave that to me, it helped also. So you have this structural, let's see here. So you have this structural element. Each of the panels has a gridded system, and then you have metal panels on the front and the back that then create the wall part, and then it's sealed and you have this detail that looks more like a window. So that's sort of what it would look like in elevation, and you can see this in this axonometric drawing of kind of how the pieces all go together. So it is all metal. This cream color is essentially a similar color to the brick on the building. I am not sure if anyone is in the audience for this particular item or if there's someone online for the application, but that is sort of a quick summary of the application. And I can either answer any questions or there may be, the applicant may be on.
Is there anybody representing Chick-fil-A either in the audience or joining us on the Zoom? If so, if you're on the Zoom, you can unmute. Not represented. Mr. Fellows, so I know you had heard our concerns in June. You've worked with them over the summer. We were, I think, a little more supportive of the permanent wall that they originally had proposed, but then the other thing just basically looked like fencing, and we don't permit any fencing. In your opinion, this isn't going to look like fencing, right?
I don't think it's going to look like fencing. I think it's going to, my hope is that it's actually going to look more like a metal panel system. So we have a number of buildings in town that have metal panels. I'm hoping it's going to look more like that. You can see in terms of its thickness of the design, it's essentially each of the black columns is about 4 inches wide. The distance between the inside and the outside panel is about 3 inches. So within this, if you follow my cursor on the screen, within this window, if you're looking at it, if you're walking down the sidewalk, you're going to see 3 inches. So it's going to look kind of like a depth of a window. If you look at this building or other buildings, you know, anywhere from 2 to 4 inches is about a setback. So it's going to create a little bit of a shadow line. Obviously, there's not glass in here. My understanding is that there would be a plastic type product clipped on in the winter to kind of break that, but otherwise it'd be open in the summer. So I think it's going to have some depth. It's not going to look like a fence. I mean, in all honesty, it would be nice if they had actually done the windscreen out of masonry when the building was originally built, but given the soil conditions and the conditions and stuff in the area, I actually think the metal panel system is probably a great compromise in between the two options.
All right, thank you. Open it to members of the committee.
Question, Mr. Mayor.
Commissioners.
Can you stick with that image? I'm a little confused by the central piece of these. So it's I think you said, Mr. Fellows, that they are not glass or plastic, but open. And then in the winter, as to make the windscreen effect, they would cover them with a non-transparent material.
I believe it would be a transparent plastic. Yes, so it would still have that look. But if you remember what they put out there this winter, they kind of had a black part on the bottom and on the side, and then there was these sections that were clear plastic. So my understanding is it's not in this diagram, but essentially these 6 panes on the inside, on the drive-through side, would actually have clipped to it a clear plastic type material that would block the wind, but still allow visibility.
So they would still be see.
Correct. Yes.
Thank you. One of the concerns, whether first responders would be able to see through the wall.
Right, right. Nelson, go ahead.
Thank you. One quick question. This partition is something that won't be removable. It will be something that's stationary permanent, correct? Okay, I just wanted to make sure. I think at one
Correct.
point there was a question about it.
They
being
put up a
permanent.
temporary one for the winter, this first winter.
Okay.
But I think my understanding is they, in our climate as well as in this particular location, based on the wind, and the sun, that this actually would help from a climate perspective, in the summer and the winter.
Any other questions? All right, well, we do have a recommendation from staff. Could we get a motion to approve the recommendation that we approve this as a minor modification to the Plan Development District at 5201 North Port Washington Road?
So moved.
Okay, Commissioner Story, thank you. Seconded by Commissioner Nelson. Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving this as a minor modification to the Plan Development District, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Does that have to go back to, it's a minor modification, we just took care of it here, it doesn't have to go back to the common council, correct?
No, so if you had determined it was a major modification, we would have to go back to council, but with a minor modification, it just ends at this point. So
Okay, perfect. So they'll work with you on permitting and
correct.
getting it built. Okay, wonderful, thank you. Next, we have two items that are the last of our 5 allowable digital billboard signs. These were on the agenda last month. We tabled them all. One of them we just tabled again indefinitely. Mr. Fellows?
Yes, so the first item on today's agenda is 4545 Northport Washington Road. This is for a digital billboard. We did discuss this last month. It does have some architectural design to it. In your report, there was some questions about application deadlines, when checks were received. There was a lot of conversation after the Planning Commission or the Planning and Architectural Review Commission last month. So in the report, we did provide a little bit of a table so you can see some of those dates and what has and has not happened. We did include some information about state permits, those types of things. And then we did provide a brief summary of sort of the logic of when these applications came in, and including the current billboard that actually is along 43 that's been there for a few years. So that would be the application number 1, just to, kind of keep things clear. Staff is recommending approval of 4545 subject to 6 conditions. They consist of stamped plans for an engineer for the structural design of the structure, approval by WISDOT. The application shall finalize the architectural elements, materials, and colors, acknowledgement that they'll be working with the various entities like Welcome to Glendale and other community organizations to do some public service announcements. This particular applicant indicates they also work with small businesses and do art type installations. And then also work with staff for a final landscaping plan at the base of the sign. I know the applicant is on the Zoom call. He had tried to get here today, but his flight got canceled and he wasn't able to get another flight that would get him in on time. So I'll let you, if you have any questions for me or Mr. Manfredi, we're both here to answer any questions.
I don't have any additional questions, but I've also sat in meetings with everybody in the last month since tabling it last month. So I'll open it to the commission. Any commissioners have any additional questions?
I don't have a question about this, but I do want to give feedback to the city about the design guidelines. The phrase, "the design style shall be unique and timeless," is actually weird to me. The designs we're seeing are not necessarily unique to one another. And additionally, something that is unique and timeless is almost a contradiction.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Lines 4 and 5, and we now have a permit application that we'll likely never need to use again because the 5 we permitted by city ordinance will be done. So, all right. So we do have a recommendation from staff that we approve. This sign would be sign number 4, and this would be subject to 6 conditions as outlined in the memo. Can I get a motion to approve, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Nelson. Is there a second?
And
Second by Commissioner Story. Any further discussion? All those in favor of approving, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Manfredi, for joining us. Next is the sign for the Sprecher property.
Yes, this digital display board is for 727 West Glendale Avenue. You also saw this last month. We provided the same information that I mentioned on the other application in terms of dates and times and sequencing. The conditions are identical. There's the same 6 conditions that we just talked about. And I know that Mark Kloss from Sprecher is on the call if you might have any specific questions for him.
Thank you. Questions? Sign. This is the 5th and final sign. We are now done with digital billboards. So, all right, can I get a motion then to approve subject to the 6 conditions outlined in the staff memo, 7 conditions outlined in the staff memo?
So moved.
All right, thank you, Mr. Story. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Nelson. So it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor of approving, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. It is approved. All right, next we move into 3 public hearings. 2 of them are outlined in the agenda. One of them is actually erroneously listed further down. We're going to move it up when we get there. So the first public hearing is regarding a zoning map amendment from a B1A1 local business district to a PD plan development district and general development plan for Phoenix JCR Glendale Industrial Investors at 5055 North Lydell Avenue. This would be a mixed use development land classifications, currently a B1A1, and would be changed to a PD, a plan development. This is what used to be 20 years ago, for those who've been around that long, 25 years ago, that was the Sunbeam Oster plant headquarters when Sunbeam Oster used to actually make toasters and blenders and things in the United States. So the property has been purchased by Phoenix investors, and we did approve already a corporate headquarters to be there. They do want to do modifications to the building, and so that it doesn't necessitate a change in zoning. Mr. Fellows, did you want to add anything to that?
I just was going to walk you through the site plan if I can
Yeah.
get to the tab without. Yeah, there you go. So I just wanted to walk through the site plan briefly. It's on your screen here. Sorry, the 2 screens. Oh, what did I do? Sorry.
Got it again.
There we go. So essentially it's one building at the moment. So there, on the site plan that you see here, this arm, this northern part of the building is actually connected to this lower part of the building. They're proposing to actually put a cut through the middle of the building here. So they'll become 2 separate buildings. There is actually a 2-story red brick office component that is right in this particular section, parallel to Lydell. That would actually be removed. So they would be left with this particular shape here. They have parking along Lydell with detention basins, and then they have a service type drive-through area on this particular part of the building. They'll be redoing the facade on the north side of the southern building, and then there'll be a new facade on the west side and east side of the existing building. Some modifications to the parking lot up in this corner, up in sort of the northeast, an area for a new island just to kind of do some traffic calming within the parking lot for not a lot of cut throughs. And then over towards the car wash and Port Washington Road, this landscape buffer area over here to also kind of break up the parking lot. We do, let's see, I'm going to bring up the elevations for you here shortly. I got to just find them. And then as I'm scrolling through this, just to remind you, it is a planned development district. So this is the existing building. You can see the 2-story elevation. This is what it looks like along Lydell. That's probably the most public facade of the building. And then these elevations here, if I can get them to kind of come up on the screen a little better. This would be the facade facing Lydell. So it's a panel system with some windows. You can see the delivery areas there. This would be what the building would look like from Lydell with some detention basins. I did talk to the landscape architect. We talked a little bit about some screening and some other things of the parking spaces, because typically rain gardens kind of lay flat in the winter. So this would be a very barren area in the winter. So we've talked about that. That's noted in some of the staff comments. This is a planned development district, so we are at the point where we're doing the rezoning for the property and the general development plan. We'll get through that process, have public hearings, and then we'll get to the specific implementation plan probably in September. So all these things are sort of still a little bit, typically a little bit of a work in process, but they would be getting finalized in the next 30 to 40 days, so to speak. So that's sort of a synopsis of the project. And there are some comments from staff from both engineering and planning and other departments that were kind of summarized in your report.
All right. Members of the commission. Commissioner Nelson, go ahead.
Is there a within the plan, and maybe I missed it, to repave the actual parking lot there? It's a little bumpy, the actual lot.
So they were only, mine, from the plans that they've provided, they're only creating the new parking lot along Lydell,
Okay.
repaving the northeast area by that one driveway, and then they'd be repaving in the northwest corner. But the main central part of the parking lot, I don't believe they were planning any particular improvements.
Any additional questions before I open the public hearing? Okay, this public hearing was properly noticed to the public?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, and published in the newspapers, everything?
Correct.
All right. Is there anyone from Phoenix that wants to say anything before I open the public hearing?
Not at this point. This is John Paré, excuse me, from Phoenix. Like Mr. Fellows had stated, we're still finalizing details and information from a prospective tenant that we can't disclose at this point, but we just wanted to get the ball rolling and get you guys as much information because depending on which direction this goes, things will move fast, and we just want to make sure we get ahead of that.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Absolutely.
All right, seeing no other questions, then we'll go ahead and open the public hearing. There's now, so the public hearing is now open on the property at 5055 North Lydell Avenue. This was formerly the Sunbeam Oster headquarters, is a building that has been approved for a business headquarters or corporate headquarters. They're asking to rezone from a B1 A1 local business district to a PD planned development district. And they presented to us preliminary plans for what that district, what the buildings would look like. We don't yet know who the tenant is. So we're now open for a public hearing. Is there anyone in the council chambers wishing to speak on this issue? I'm not seeing anyone in the council chambers wishing to be recognized. Is there anyone that wants to speak the public hearing who is joining us via Zoom? If so, you may unmute and state your name and address, please. All right, second call. Anyone wishing to speak in the public hearing? Third and final call. Anyone wishing to speak in the public hearing regarding the rezoning of 5055 North Lydell Avenue? All right, I would entertain a motion from a member of the commission to close the public hearing.
Moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Story. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Nelson. All those in favor of closing the public hearing, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The public hearing is now closed. So we do have now a recommendation from staff that we recommend back to the Common Council approval of a rezoning from a B1 A1 local business district to a PD planned development district. Can I, subject to a whole bunch of conditions outlined in the memo here. So can I get a motion then to refer this back to the commission with a recommendation for approval? Thank you, Commissioner Nelson, for motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Story. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor of referring this back to the common council with a recommendation to approve the rezoning, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. The next public hearing that was noticed for tonight is for a conditional use for Sky's Playground Childcare Service at 6801 North Green Bay Avenue. It's a B2 Community Business District. There had previously been before us, probably a year and a half ago or 2 years ago, a proposal for a childcare center in this exact same location. We went through the conditional use approvals and then they never opened. So now we've got a different owner approaching us with this exact same site that was brought up, I think, about 2 years ago. Mr. Fellows, would you like to add anything to that?
Yes, so there were some concerns that came about from the planning commission at the last meeting, as well as some written comments from some neighbors after the planning commission meeting. So we did, the applicant and I did discuss those. She's responded to those items. So if you recall, the original plan that you saw last month was basically a fence that came right to the property line and came across. There was no barrier between the driving area and the fence. There wasn't really any shade or planting, so she has moved the fence farther from the property line so that there can be some landscaping put at the base of the fence to kind of soften the fence from the public right of way, planting of a tree for shade for the kids, as well as putting in a barrier in this particular area so that it's plants and there'll be a curb so that provides a little bit more of a barrier. And then in the rear, there's not quite as much space. So she would be putting some bollards that you typically would find at a back of a building or an alley area so that also would protect the fence. So any vehicles that might be driving would not, be able to get through the fence, so to speak, from that perspective. So she has, kind of updated that. Most of the concerns related to the play area as well as the fence. I believe the fence, she did originally propose 6 feet and, or I'm sorry, 8 feet, and she's bringing it down to be a little bit more shorter from that perspective. We didn't really talk anything about the use in particular from the inside. It was mostly about this outdoor play area. So, and I think she is in the audience if you have any questions.
All right, thank you. Members of the commission. Commissioner Seligman, go ahead.
Thank you. I just want to clarify that I'm understanding the diagram. Looks to me like the area that is, thank you, that is closest to the street will be wood chipped. And then the area that is closer to the building is the existing asphalt. And then the entire thing is enclosed by a fence. Is that correct reading?
Correct.
All right, thank you.
All right, any additional questions? All right, you said Representative, the owner's here?
She is, yes.
Did you want to add anything to what we've already said? Okay, thank you. All right, then I will go ahead and open the public hearing. Public hearing is now open regarding a conditional use for Sky's Playground Childcare Services to operate at 6801 North Green Bay Avenue in a B2 Community Business District. Anyone wishing to speak in the public hearing regarding the conditional use? Not seeing anyone in the council chambers raising their hand or wishing to be recognized. So if there's anyone on the Zoom that wishes to speak in the public hearing, you may now unmute and state your name. All right, second call. Anyone wishing to speak in the public hearing on the conditional use for the operation of a childcare center at 6801 North Green Bay Avenue? Third and final call. Anyone wishing to speak in the public hearing? All right, I would entertain a motion from a member of the commission to close the public hearing, please.
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Seligman. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Story. All those in favor of closing the public hearing, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The public hearing is now closed. So we do have a recommendation from staff that we approve the conditional use for Sky's Playground Childcare Service to operate at 6801 North Green Bay Avenue And the plans that were presented also would be part of the motion to approve. Can I get a motion to approve, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Story. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Nelson. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor of approving the conditional use, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. The conditional use is approved. We have one more public hearing that got moved, got placed on here under the new business as item 5H, sorry. The zoning map amendment. That's actually was noticed for a public hearing. So we're going to now move item 5H up. This is the discussion, consideration, and directing staff to schedule a public hearing for a zoning map amendment from an R7 residence district to an R7A residence district at 902 West Eula Court. So I will turn it over to Mr. Fellows. This already went to the Common Council and they referred it to the Plan Commission.
Yes, Mayor. So this particular item, it did go to Common Council. You guys saw the item last month and requested the public hearing. The applicant is requesting this go to from R7 to R7A. The difference is it does allow for two families on the same lot. The properties on this particular map, if you go down towards Glendale Avenue, they're currently zoned R7A. There are two other random parcels on Eula Court that are zoned R7A. And thus the applicant has requested that R7A. The history of this lot, we went over it a little bit last month, but I'll just go over it real quickly. When it was originally plotted in the town, when it was the town of Milwaukee, it was actually two lots. And somewhere at that point before the founding of Glendale, a house was built with the property line going through the house. And then at some point, the two parcels were combined into one. And then the current owner purchased the property. The house was in disrepair. He decided a number of years ago to tear the house down. So it's been an empty lot for a number of years. And he would like to reinvest in the property with some new units. So that is the kind of the purpose of his request. This is a photograph sort of the lot. It is a rezoning request, so I don't have a lot of great images for you, but that's sort of the best we got for the evening. And I know the property owner is here if you have any questions.
All right, thank you. So I do have a question. In your memo, the memo says to direct you to schedule a public hearing. Was a public hearing not already noticed for this?
I know it was noticed.
It
I
was
just-
noticed.
Yes, we put it in the wrong spot. So yes, that's why the memo is that way.
Okay,
Yep,
so the public hearing was, I thought we scheduled it last month for. this
Correct.
month. Okay,
yep. We
all right,
just
so just making sure we're
dropped it in the
clear.
wrong spot.
All right. So we do have a public hearing that was noticed for tonight based on our action last month. Property owners here, did you want to add anything to what was already stated or? Yeah, if you're just gonna wave me and say no, then that's fine. But if you want to speak, you have to actually come up to the microphone.
And
Yep.
sorry. Hi, I'm Craig Kurtz.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you. As Mr. Fellows said, it was originally two lots and all the lots in that area are 40 feet wide. That particular lot is 80 feet because it was two lots. So my intention is to be able to build two units on it so that it's more conforming with the neighborhood as opposed to one large home built across it. So.
Okay. Any questions from members of the commission? Commissioner Nelson, go ahead.
And this may be a question, I don't know. Is the property on still split between Glendale and Milwaukee, or is it simply Glendale?
It's simply Glendale. It was
Okay.
actually in the town of Milwaukee before the founding of Glendale.
Thank
So this is one of those old parcels that are just a little more unusual.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right. We'll now open the public hearing then. There's a public hearing to rezone property at 902 West Eula Court from an R7 to an R7A that would permit it to be multifamily. All right, the public hearing is now open. Is there anyone wishing to speak on this item? Yes, sir. If you come up to the microphone, please, and state your name and your address, please.
I am Rick Pendergast. I live at 824 Eula Court. The property that shares a property line with the property under consideration. No, Craig, no problems here. I've looked at the R7A, and I have some questions. In particular, at the very beginning, and it confused me, it says a single-family semi-detached dwelling or a two-family detached dwelling. Does this zoning change allow for a duplex to be built on this property?
I would say a two-family, so a single-family semi-detached would be, that would be what you would probably refer to as a duplex. There's probably some common wall. So, in Milwaukee, they were often stacked, 100 years ago. More typically, developers will actually have one common wall or maybe a garage wall that would share. So that would be the semi-detached, meaning that they are connected at some point. And then the two-family detached dwelling is a two-family that are detached one another. So it's either a duplex or 2 units detached.
40-foot lot.
80-foot lot.
It's an 80-foot
I
lot.
understand, but I thought the proposal was to split the lot into 2 40s.
No, it used to be 2 40s. Our zoning code does not allow for a lot to be created 40 feet small. So basically the lot cannot get any smaller than it currently is. So originally he had thought about maybe could he split the lot in half and build 2 houses, but our code does not allow for a 40-foot wide lot. And so he would have to have additional frontage, and he doesn't have that because he has neighbors on either side. So the only option is really the R7A for something other than 1 unit.
So I'm still confused. So what can be built on that lot? 2 duplexes?
Currently, you can only have 1 single family home. If the R7A went through, you would be able to have a single family semi-detached, or a 2-family. So you'd have 2 units. You couldn't have 4 units, you'd have 2 units. So not 2 duplexes. 2 duplexes would mean 4 units.
Here.
So
So what are the 2
Yes.
they would be single
not
family.
duplexes?
You could have 1 duplex that would have 2 families in it, and that's the most you could have on the property. You could have a single family home, or you could have a unit that has 2 families occupying it, or 2 separate units next to each other would be 1 family and 1 family. You can't have more than 2 families on the property
Okay.
on an R7A.
So and the condition under R7A down at the bottom, that the site will be situated on a block in which 40% or more of the frontage is occupied by 2 family dwellings, which is not the case on Eula Court.
What section are you reading from?
I just pulled it off of your website. It's paragraph B.
B. The building site shall be situated in a block in which 40% or more of the frontage is occupied by 2 family dwellings. Yes, that would be accurate statement.
The court does not have 40% or more of 2 family. It has 6 buildings out of 30.
Correct, and there are currently 2 properties on Eula Court already zoned to R7A. So that paragraph is unusual, but at some point, City Council did approve 2 freestanding properties to have R7A. So that's why this applicant is requesting that, is because it had already done in the.
So
done
just
in
to
the
be
past.
simple, my only concern, in fact, in speaking with Craig, I was under the impression that the goal was to split the lot, build 2 houses. And my wife and I, who's also here, are perfectly okay with that. What we're not comfortable with are duplexes. There's 2 traditional duplexes on the block, and they have historically been problems with drugs, noise, and other issues. The last thing we want on this 1 block long dead end street with a lot of kids is more non-residents, non-owner people, transient coming in and in fact, one of them has just been turned into a Airbnb, which has caused even more trouble. So my only concern is we not build duplexes in the sense of additional renters. So I guess I don't know what I want to object to. I thought I was coming to speak in favor of splitting the lot, but not putting duplexes on them.
So
I'm against duplexes.
I think you've clarified, yeah, you came for one item and it's actually it's the,
Right.
actually the opposite of what you came for, yes.
Except if you're saying that this is giving permission to build duplexes on the property, I would be against it.
But a duplex. There can.
Fine.
Right, yeah.
I
Um,
agree. I'm against a duplex. I'm against I'm against duplexes. We've had trouble with them. I don't run anymore. I certainly don't want it 30 or 40 feet from my house.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. You can, let me see if there's anyone else wanting to speak in the public hearing, then yes, you obviously as the property owner do have a chance to rebut any comments that are made. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in the public hearing? Not seeing anybody else wanting to be recognized here. Oh, there is one more person in the chamber. No.
Name's Kyle Bryther. I'm
Lean in a little bit more to the microphone. Yeah,
right. Sorry, guys.
yeah.
Kyle Bryther, 812 West Eula Court. I guess I want to echo his concerns just on record, and I just want to verify. So you're saying on that lot that's 80 feet wide to the river, there can either be 2 single-family dwellings or a side by side, which could house 2 families. No matter what, there would only be 2 families allowed on that lot.
Correct.
And one person would still own the entire lot. That's not going to be split. It's going to be the same lot.
That's correct. That's what the R7A would permit.
The only other option would be in full ownership of one person, or it could be, often these will be created into a condominium. So the property is in common ownership amongst 2 property owners, and then each property owner owns their unit.
Right.
So but that is not regulated by code. That would be up to a person choosing to go through a condominium ownership regime.
Right. I follow. I think
Yep.
I'm good. All right. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in the public hearing is in the council chambers? All right, is there anyone on the Zoom that wishes to speak on the rezoning of 902 West Eula Court? If so, you can unmute and state your name and address. All right, Mr. Kurtz, go ahead.
In regard to the duplexes, first of all, I live in one of those duplexes. And so I do resent the comment about drugs and challenges with the duplexes, because I live in one of them and it's at the end of the block, and it's been owned by very decent families for the last decade or more. And so there aren't any problems. I would also state that Mr. Pendergrass' home itself, his lot itself has 2 homes on it. Most of the lots on that side of the street, on the river side of the street, have 2 homes already on a 40-foot lot. So mine's an 80-foot lot. I'm requesting to put 2 homes on where the majority of the homes on that side of the street are 40-foot lots already with 2 homes on them, including his.
So I'm going to ask here, could you pull up the map, Mr. Fellows? I just want to see the map to see how there are 2 homes on each of the lots.
You
Is this the area where there's like one toward the front of the lot and one toward the back
Yes.
of the lot? Okay.
Yes.
Let's see a zoning map or
Along
an
the
aerial
river.
map? Let's see an aerial.
Aerial, yeah, please.
Be Google. I can probably pull up a county map too, if you'd like.
Actually, could you, because I would like to be able to see the property lines here.
The map in front of you, it's basically a footprint map from the county, and I can turn on the aerial photographs here in a minute, and you can see it with the aerial with the. So 920 is this particular property here, and then you can see the
I
other.
believe you mean 902.
I'm sorry, 902.
The one 824 actually has two homes, one toward the front of the property and one toward the back of the property.
I believe so.
I'm just curious, how would we zone for something like that now, or we just wouldn't allow for two homes on the same parcel? Because
I would
that's an
s-
R7,
I
not
would
an
s-
R7A.
I
and it
would
has two-
suggest that we create a new zoning district that would allow such, because our current zoning that is fairly, the R7A is actually the only district. All of our other districts are all single-family districts that don't allow anything other than single family. So the R7A is sort of the two-family duplex type option. So I would say from a use perspective, like 824, by the fact that it has two units, it probably should be R7A. If there's other properties on the street, they probably also should be R7A. That would make them more.
16 looks like it
They'd
has
make,
two
it'd make them
properties. I
more
mean, there's a number of them,
conforming. They might not be conforming from setbacks and those types of things, but if for some reason somebody were to be going through something like with a refinancing or insurance, and that refinancing bank or the insurance were to ask us to give them a letter, we would say, well, this is a property that's non-conforming in use as well as in dimensions. But if it was an R7A and it had two units on it, we'd at least be able to say the use is conforming. Maybe a setback or something's not conforming, but from that perspective, so it would get the uses a little bit more conforming from that perspective. So
So how would somebody like say 824 with two properties on one parcel, how do you sell a house if you're not selling the land with it?
well, you would either sell the whole property with both houses at once.
Which lady's nodding,
Or
okay.
the only other way I would know that you would be able to sell them separately is you would go through a condominium process where the land would end up in common ownership amongst two owners, and then you would condominiumize both units, and then you could start selling one unit or the other unit separately. And
Thank you.
So they'd be kind of these little mini condo associations.
Okay, thank you. I do have a question for Mr. is it Pendergast. So do you own both properties on 824, both homes?
The house we live in was built in the 20s and we're the second owners of it. So we have this whole history. And in fact, when we went to get a mortgage, we had to jump through a lot of hoops because of the non-conforming status. Yes, I wanted
As
to,
you own both, you own a property that has two houses. Do you rent one of the houses out or do you occupy both?
we rent one of the houses out.
Okay.
Of the six, what I call duplexes, four of them have two houses. The other, three of them do. The others are traditional duplexes. Craig lives in one. And I apologize if I insulted him. The two duplexes I was referring to are in the middle of the street, and they've been the source of trouble for a number of years. Not Craig's duplex. So yes, when we bought the property, we were told if one of the houses burned down, we couldn't replace it because it was grandfathered non-conforming.
Okay. Put up the zoning map here that shows the other properties on the street.
Ask Mr. Pendergast a
Yeah,
question.
Good.
So if I understand your position, you're opposed to duplex buildings that have two families in one physical building, but you own property in which there's two houses and they're
Right.
separate. So those don't fall into your worries.
Exactly. Yeah.
Can you explain to me the difference in your mind?
I can, and then it's, it would never be, you would never be able to accommodate in terms of law. The problems we have had are with the non-owner occupied duplexes. Craig lives in his duplex and has someone else. All the double houses have an owner and a renter. The only time we have problems is when there's an absentee owner and rents out the two units or turns them into Airbnbs, and then all heck breaks loose. So yeah, what I'm asking is nothing that could be done probably legally. It's like, if you're gonna have a duplex, I want an owner there, which you can't mandate.
So if you will allow me to understand, it sounds like you don't really oppose duplexes, you oppose absentee owners.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Is that correct?
It is correct.
Mr. Kurt's living just down the street while he wouldn't be occupying the house next door to you. He's not,
He's selling the property.
oh, are you selling the property or are you developing the property?
You're selling the 80 feet.
Selling the 8
He's selling the 80 feet.
You
Okay.
just don't have control over who buys it.
And they can then based on R7 build, it seems to me, whatever they want.
Just for clarification, after this rezoning were to be completed, yes, the property owner could choose to sell it to a developer or some other person. They could choose to develop it themselves. So like once it's rezoned, it's kind of lots of different pathways to future development.
I mean, I was under the impression, Mr. Kurtz, that you were developing the property, that you were gonna. Yeah,
Mike, please.
sorry, I need you to come to the microphone. We have folks on the Zoom, and if you don't speak into the microphone, they can't hear you. We can all hear you, but
I
they
do
can't.
live on the street. I've lived there for a number of years. This is the third property that I've bought on Eula Court. So I'm very familiar with the street. I'm very connected there. I plan to stay there. I bought this property when the house was falling down, and for the last 10 years, people were hoping somebody would buy it. Everybody was happy when I bought it. I told them I was going to be developing it. I was not, because of all of the other multifamily situations on the street, many of them have an owner occupied. He rents to somebody. Now you'd never know who you always try to rent to good tenants, but sometimes things happen, and apparently there's tenants that have rented in the area that they're not happy with, but that can happen in any area when you've got properties. Anybody can rent their single family property out as well and could be rented to somebody that they don't like. But that I don't think is a reason to object to the zoning when.
My
maybe
question
we
though
might
is,
not
are
like it.
you going to be the one building the new property and owning?
My
the new
goal
property?
is to build on the property. Yeah, no, I won't be, well, I don't know at this point, but I don't intend to move.
But you
into
would be
either
the
one.
landlord of the property. You're
Correct.
not planning to sell the property to somebody and have it developed by somebody else who might build a duplex, rent it to two completely different people and be
Correct.
completely absentee. You're intending to be.
Correct. I intend to, I intend to stay there. I intend to develop. I'm looking at couple of different builders right now. I was waiting to make sure that we had zoning before I went into any plans to actually design anything. But the idea would be to build two single family, so detached, as Mr. Fellows mentioned. I am interested in going through the condoization of the property so that we could build two homes and then sell each one of them to an individual owner, so that there wouldn't be rented to anybody, at least not by design. Somebody could buy them and rent them out, of course, but my plan is to build two separate units on there that would conform with the neighborhood. Those are, houses of a certain era. And so we wanted to build, I didn't want to keep the lot together and build one big mansion on it at an 80-foot wide lot when all the other homes in the area are on a 40-foot. So the idea was to build a couple of houses that are more conforming with the neighborhood.
Okay, thank
So
you.
That's the objective.
All right, any questions from members of the commission? All right, now, like if we've had a whole bunch of people speak. A second call, is there anyone else wishing to speak in the public hearing? And a third and final call, anyone wishing to speak in the public hearing? All right, can I get a motion from a member of the commission to close the public hearing, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Seligman. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Nelson. So all those in favor of closing the public hearing, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The public hearing is. We have before us a request to rezone 902 West Eula Court from an R7 residence district to an R7A residence district. Can I get a motion then to recommend to the Common Council that they approve the rezoning of 902 West Eula Court from an R7 to an R7A?
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Seligman. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner. I just want to say, in the period of debate and discussion here, that I feel much more comfortable approving, knowing that the landlord, the person developing the property is going to live just right down the street and will not be an absentee landlord, whether they're both rented or whether you sell them. The fact that you're there, if you were going to be getting it rezoned and then selling it to somebody else and who knows what they would do, I would feel less comfortable. I do want to say to staff, though, I do believe that with all of these properties on this street that have multiple homes on a single parcel, that I would actually like to see a proposal from staff at some point in future months that we look at that street as being an R7A street, because we've got too many non-conforming homes that would allow all those homes then on that street to be fully conforming, so that as folks want to sell their home or the next generation of owners were to purchase those homes, they won't deal with the same issues at the bank of trying to explain why their house is non-conforming. So I think it would streamline things. So if we could work on that. Thank you. Any other comments from members of the commission? All right, all those in favor of recommending the rezoning to the common council, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you all for your comments and the discussion. I appreciate that. Yep. All right, now we'll move on to new business. First item is an architectural review for an exterior renovation of 7405 North Berwyn Avenue. Turn it over to Mr. Fellows.
Mr. Smith might present this one.
Oh, okay.
Can you put it up on your share
I
screen?
will, I'll get it up.
Okay, as the commission knows, the ARB was formally abolished and the ARB's responsibilities have been transferred to this body. And in so doing, the owners of 7405 North Berwyn are conducting a kitchen renovation, part of which involves an exterior change to a window. Or I guess two windows would essentially become one. And where's the picture? And so in this image, you can see the two left windows would be removed, and then a sort of centered one would be between the two, and the current siding attached to the masonry would be extended further to the left in that image. And so that's the current the existing format, and then scrolling down, that's what it would look like under this proposal.
I guess I want to ask for either one of you, either the planner or the director of development. Does this constitute what would be considered a significant enough change to go to for architectural review, or would something of this nature normally could it fall under the purview of staff?
I'll answer that one. So traditionally, it would have gone to the ARB, and the ARB didn't have any specific design guidelines. So when we abolished the ARB this spring, the intent is to develop design guidelines, which actually indicate what items would be at a staff level and which items would be at a commission level, but we haven't been able to find the time to write those, as well as get them to you for your approval. So we've sort of been operating in, if it's visible from the street in the public way, we're bringing it to you. So if this was at the back of the house, in the backyard, you couldn't really see it, it's their kitchen remodel, we would have been approving it. But if there was anything that's visible to the public, then the public might take an interest in, we've kind of been leaning in that direction. So there have been a few patio doors that have been widened and a few things like that that have been happening at the staff level, but this one was, since it faces the street, and there's some changes to the brick and those types of things, we thought it to bring it before you. You know, it's keeping with the general style and architecture and materials that's on the building currently. So
Okay. In my opinion, this is one of those things that when we're able to get those design guidelines prepared, this is one of those things that likely could have just been handled by staff. So
sure.
I don't personally have any objections to it. So any members of the commission have any questions for staff, either for Mr. Smith or for Mr. Fellows? All right, we have a recommendation from staff that we approve the proposed exterior changes to 7405 North Berwyn Avenue. Can I get a motion to approve, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Seligman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Story. Any further discussion? All those in favor of approving, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Next item is discussion and consideration of a business use for Aliande to operate at 2450 West Silver Spring in a B3 Silver Spring Drive Commercial District. And who's presenting this? Is this
And
Ms.
Ken.
Okay.
Aliana Incorporated is an umbrella company that owns 3 separate entities related to business development, business consulting. And by all accounts, it appears that he has a solid business plan and would be an excellent addition to the North Shore Chamber of Commerce. And I believe the applicant is in the audience if he has any, if you'd like to add anything.
Okay. Is this the former Hassel building? Okay, yeah, I'm familiar with it then. All right, any questions from members of the commission? All right, we do have a recommendation from staff that we grant business use for Aliande Incorporated to operate at 2450 West Silver Spring Drive. We get a motion to approve, please.
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Seligman, second by Commissioner Nelson. Any discussion? All in favor of approving, aye.
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 Opposed, no. Motion carries. It's approved. Next item is discussion and consideration of a business use for Dr. Reem Majoub, owner of True Dental, to operate at 2501 West Silver Spring Drive. This is diagonally across the street.
Dr. Majoub is a dentist who specializes in dental surgery. So probably one of the favorite doctors everyone likes to visit. And so she has a clinic in the city of Milwaukee and wishes to expand her operation into the city of Glendale. And staff recommends approval of this business use.
All right. And we did have the, yeah, there we go. We see the property there. I think this is currently a medical clinic.
Correct.
Okay, will the whole building be occupied or will it be just a portion of the building? In other words, is the medical clinic staying there and then the dental is being added, or?
I'm looking at Mr.
It's occupying 3,500 square foot. I don't know what the building's total square footage is. Yeah, I did not obtain that detail. I don't know if the applicant is on the call right now.
I think it's just a portion. The building's a little bigger than 3,500, I think.
Yeah, it's a decent sized building.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anyone representing the applicant for True Dental? All right, well, we do have a recommendation from staff that we grant business use for True Dental to operate at 2501 West Silver Spring. Can we get a motion to approve, please?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Nelson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Story. I would be curious to know how much of the building they're occupying. If you could just find that out and send that along to us afterwards. Thank you. Any debate or any discussion? All those in favor of approving, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The motion carries. Next item, item 5D, is business use for D&K Foods doing business as Jersey Mike Subs at 5530 North Port Washington Road.
D&K Foods would like to open a Jersey Mike's in the location. I've been working with them and the corporation of Jersey Mike's going back a couple months now. The owner of the franchise is interested in getting involved in the community, and they would use almost 1,600 square foot of for lack of a better term, strip mall. It would have seating for 34 diners and occupancy for 66, including employees. There would be a maximum of 12 employees on site at any given time. Business hours would be 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. and staff does recommend approval. And I believe there are representatives in the audience.
Is this the little, there's like the bigger strip in the back that's got like the men's warehouse stuff, and then there's a little strip in front that I think has a vision place and a nail place. Is it that little strip?
Yes.
Okay. And which one of the units would they be occupying? 'Cause I think there's 3 units there. There used to be Board Game Barrister on the end, but then they moved over to Bayshore Mall. So
I think it's the middle space. It's the same one that you saw that was supposed to be for a wing place this spring, but then they decided not to go forward with, if you remember.
so it's the smaller one right in the middle.
I believe so.
Okay. All right. Members of the commission, any questions? All right. Can we get a motion then to approve the business use for Jersey Mike's at 5530B Northport Washington Road?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Story, seconded by Commissioner Seligman. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Next item is consideration of a business use for AVG Intermediate Holdings doing business as Urgent Vet at 6969 North Port Washington Road.
AVG Holdings, which AVG standing for American Veterinary Group, would open Urgent Vet in the former Robert Hack Diamonds store. It's essentially, I guess you could describe it as an urgent care for pets, primarily dogs and cats, to sort of be the middle point between an animal ER and your standard vet visit. And it would be open 24 hours, or excuse me, not 24 hours, 365 days a year, for a variety of different hours depending on the day. It would occupy about 2,000 square foot of that building. And yeah, to expound upon what exactly they treat, mild illnesses and minor injuries that occur in cats and dogs. And they anticipate 15 client visits per weekday and up to 30 on weekends. And I believe there are representatives of Urgent Vet present.
This is in that whole shopping center area, so there's lots of parking already. Okay.
Yes.
All right, are there any questions from members of the commission? Yep, Commissioner Seligman, go ahead.
So this is a question, I think, for the business owner, business representative. First of all, I want to make a pun about Dr. Dog being next to the place where the dogs go. I don't know how to make that pun though, so I'll just point it out. But my actual question is, since I'm in that parking lot all the time, it's really kind of dangerous. I wonder if the owner has any plans for being able to advise clients to use the tiny little parking lot off to the side rather than the main parking lot so that the animals are not subject to being hit by the drivers who come from both the east and from the south in an effort to exit that.
Yeah, there is a smaller parking lot just to the north of that particular building. I have to walk past the dumpster enclosure, but yeah, that would probably be a safer.
But that's a question for the representative.
Okay, is there
business.
somebody here representing the clinic?
Hello, yes. This is Dr. Jim Dobies. I'm the president of Urgent Vet and the founder. So I appreciate the time this evening and I appreciate the question. I apologize for the sound quality. We are at a internal retreat at the Nashville Zoo in Tennessee. So it may be a little, the noise quality may not be good. But in answer to your question, yes, we're working with the property owner to develop wayfinding and safe passage to the clinic as well as signage. So that is something certainly that we're concerned about. But that side parking area is ideal to not only service our clients, but our staff that will be parking there and working in that facility. And we did get a chance to meet the operator of Dr. Dog, and she's a lovely person and she's excited about our use.
And then if I could follow up, where are you were going to have a pet walk area for the dogs? Where was that going to be? And it will be in that near little parking lot or somewhere else?
We do not offer boarding or grooming or hospitalization. So this is an outpatient clinic where the pets are under the control of their owners on a leash at all times. So we're working with the property owner to have a pet relief area in one of the grassy spots over to the right side of the building. And that'll be an area that we maintain and police for sanitation and cleanliness on a daily, regular basis. As well as offering a safe path into the facility.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, can I get a motion then to approve the AVG Intermediate Holdings to do business with operating as Urgent Vet at 6969 North Port Washington Road?
So moved.
Thank you. Moved by Commissioner Seligman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Story. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor of approving, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you very much.
Yep. The next item on our agenda is specific development plan with a planned development. This is for Casa de Corazon, the daycare and preschool at 4600 North Port Washington Road. I'll turn it over to staff.
So this application you've seen a couple of times. This is as just a reminder with a plan development district, we go through a specific development plan, a general development plan, and then we end it with a specific development plan. So we've started that phase. They did receive their rezoning and their general development plan about a month ago, and have been working with staff to put all their final touches together on their site plan. Just to call your attention to a few things that have changed since you saw it as a specific development plan. They are calling out for a utility building in this back corner, but they did not submit architectural drawings for that particular building. That would be submitted at another time, so that would be an amendment. They also talked about having some wind turbines that would generate some power. They've chosen not to move forward with that at this point, so that also would happen at a future date. And then they did also talk about some solar panels on top of the flat roof of the building. For various reasons, they've decided to kind of hold off on that. So those are the three big changes. They may come back to you at a future time and might be an amendment, either a major or minor amendment at that time. Other than that, the site plan and everything has pretty much stayed the same. There's a little bit more details in terms of some modifications to the building. We did clarify with the architect with regard to these inserts. The new brick will be inserted just a little bit so that you'll have a little bit of a relief, a little shadow line. It would kind of show where the existing window used to be. And then the brick won't seem so mismatched. But usually they'll get pretty close, but usually there's still a little bit of a difference. So, and then the windows and doors that they're modifying would have white trim similar to what's on the current building. And I think that's pretty much summarizes everything. I think the applicant and some of their representatives are here if you have any questions.
All right, thank you. Members of the commission, any questions?
Did have a
Commissioner
question.
Story, go ahead.
On the map, it does have the 4 new parking stalls. Was that included in previous? I don't remember seeing the 4 new parking stalls in the roundabout parking. area.
Roundabout, yes, up front, there was originally parking spaces
Oh,
up
there were,
there,
okay.
correct.
Well, I know there's a 6 existing in that circular, but then the 4 new parking stalls.
This is the original one. Let's see if I can scroll to it and get to it. But I'm pretty sure they were there.
Okay.
At least I recall.
You
talking-
passed it. App that I was looking at up a few more pages.
I passed it. Oh, this
Yeah, this
This
that map,
one?
Yeah.
This is the one where they, yeah, so here's the 4 little spaces right there. So you might have missed it last time. The conceptual plans were a little more diagrammatic, I guess. I think they shifted a little in the plan.
And then if the clarification as to drop off, if it's going to be through that one roundabout area, or if there's going to repave or have other drop off onto, and then entering and exiting on Port Washington.
I believe it was to enter off of Port, come through the drop off, come off at the front door and go through the back and then come back down and come down Riverwoods Parkway to exit back onto Port Washington was my understanding.
Any other questions? All right, can we get a motion then to approve the specific development plan for the planned development for Casa de Corazon at 4600 North Port Washington Road? Well, let me get a motion in a second and then we can see. Somebody want to make a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Seconded.
Moved by Commissioner Nelson, second by Commissioner Story. Did you want to add anything to?
Answer questions.
All right, perfect. All right. Any further discussion from members of the commission? All right, all those in favor of approving the specific development plan, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, that concludes all of our business for tonight. Our next meeting we'll be back on our regular schedule in September. It will be on Tuesday, September the 5th. Any announcements from the staff or anything?
No. we don't.
Okay. Then I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Story,
Second it.
second by Commissioner Nelson. All those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries.